Are you ready to get your health back but feel overwhelmed by the endless healthcare options? We believe God has called each of us to a specific assignment, and we want to make sure your body, mind, and heart are up for the task. It's time to simplify the process of healing. At Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer simple, effective, easy ways to prioritize your health and gain understanding. No prescription pad needed. I'm Kari Coody, a pharmacist turned integrative health practitioner. I'm so excited to have these conversations around topics with my friend, Jenn.
Hi there, I'm Jenn, and together with our team at Cornerstone Integrative Healing, we offer an alternative to traditional healthcare, combining our expertise and experience in the medical field with our knowledge and faith to break the cycles of guessing what's wrong. We know the road to healing, feeling good again, can be overwhelming. You can expect honest conversations around the ups and downs of healing. The truth is, there are so many layers to healing. Because we've taken the time to learn where true healing comes from, we've learned how to help other women discover a different way of caring for themselves. Join us every week for new episodes as we discuss topics that are personal and pertinent to your healing journey.
Thank you so much, Luke, for joining us on the podcast here today. It's Kari and Jenn with Luke here to talk about something that's really special to us and just how we sort of let the Lord really heal us in so many different ways through emotional, spiritual issues that really we've seen hugely impact the physical. And so I'm excited to hear more about how Luke got into this work of just how important journaling is and really bringing the Lord into that process. And so if you want to start there and just telling us a little bit about, whatever would kind of make sense about your background and such, how you got here doing this work today.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I grew up in a little Christian school, little Christian town. My parents were teachers at this school we went to, so faith was always around. It was a Pentecostal church, and so was always around it. But it wasn't really my faith. It was just kind of around it. I don't know. And my wife and I were dating all throughout high school. And then we broke up for a couple years, early college, and then we got back together. And we'd been married. Let's see, we got married in 2001. I got out of school in that same year. Yeah, we got out of school, got married, got that first job, and I was a graphic designer at the time. So I'm driving back and forth to this job, and I just felt like a cog in a machine. I was just like, this is life. I don't know. I don't this is what I worked at to get out of school for. And I would come home and she loved her job. She was a teacher and she loved her job, but I'd come home and just be like so discontent. And we would, eat a casserole in front of the TV. And I don't know. I just was just a discontent person. And we did that for 2001 to 2005, 2006. And in 2006, this pastor came to the church we were going to, and I was honestly ready to kind of give up on God. I was like, I don't like my life necessarily, and a lot of that was just my own selfish crap. But this pastor at the end of his talk, he just goes, "I dare you to ask God to rock your world." And I remember thinking, well, that I could do. And if he's real, maybe something will happen. And if not, maybe it's time to just move on, And it wasn't like lightning strikes or anything that happened there, but it was I started to have these little pulls like, hey, you guys should figure out your money. It wasn't like a voice, but it was just, and at the time I didn't even know that it was God sort of pulling me in these little directions. And one of those, the reason I bring up money is because at the time we had like $50,000 worth of debt. We had a bunch of debt. I had insert your male addictions here, and was just kind of a discontent person. But God just kept going, hey, let's figure out your money. Let's do this. And so we figured out our money. I ended up getting a job then for Dave Ramsey and came down to Nashville. That's what brought me down to Nashville, is working for Dave. And I was a graphic designer there for a while. And so we moved to Nashville in 2008, and I kind of left everything behind. We left our families behind, and we get down here to Nashville, and I got this great job. We move away, and about 6 months in, I start to have this discontent feeling again. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, why aren't I, like, what is wrong with me? And my brain started to go like, what is the only constant that's been in my life this whole time? And what could the problem be? And I started to look at Mandy, that's my wife's name. And I started to think, well, she must be the problem. We got married too young. We didn't know any better, because we were like 21, 22 when we got married. And I really just started to play that thought over and over again. I married the wrong girl. I didn't know any better. Like, just all these thoughts are just starting to go. And that probably went on for, I don't know, 6 months, a year. And we don't need to necessarily go into it here, but I had pornography addiction at the time. And it wasn't like always, but it was around. And she didn't know about that and all of these things. And my brain, the distortions of thought that I had, kept saying she's the problem. And again, I wasn't seeking God every day in my life. I had dared God to rock my world a few years before. And so now it was 2010. So that was about 4 years after that prayer. We'd been down here for about a year. And these thoughts are just ruminating in my mind. Like, she must be the problem. I'll never be happy. I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I was out for a run in 2010. And I was prepping for the Nashville 2010 marathon. And so I'm running and I'm about 3 or 4 miles in and I'm just ruminating, it's just going. And I'm having those thoughts like, I think I got to get a divorce. Like that must be the only way out of this. This is what's going to happen. And I'm really playing that out. I'm like, okay, where will the kids move? What's going to happen? Will I be able to keep this job? Will she move back to Illinois? That's where we were from. And as I started to cry because I was just really contemplating it and playing it out. As I was playing that story out in my head, I was thinking it through. I was planning on doing that. And I felt something that I can't really explain. It just felt like a giant thumb on my whole body. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't anything. It was just like this something. And I sensed the words, "Be still and know that I'm God." And it came out of nowhere. Like, I just sort of told you about the thoughts I was having in my head, which were, and then all of a sudden this other thought was just like, "Be still and know that I'm God." Mm. It really did. It just sort of smacked me out of that thinking. And I finished my run. I've never had anything like that happen before. I've never had anything like that happen since. But I finished my run. I got home and it's just like, God, was that you? Is that what people talk about? It was just so different than what my brain was doing. And I just had this thought, if that was you, then that means you're real. And if you're real, then maybe some of these things I've heard throughout my whole life, maybe they're true. And I remember that verse, "The truth will set you free." And so I didn't even know at the time, I didn't even know Jesus said that. I just remember that phrase, And so I got home from that run and I had this little pull to write Mandy a letter and just tell her everything. And so she wasn't home that night. And so I just started writing and I just wrote the honest thoughts and feelings that I was having. All the doubts I had. I told her about the addictions. I told her about me doubting the marriage. I told her stuff about my childhood that I never told anybody. But as I was writing it out, I started to see all these thoughts that were there. And I was like, maybe what I'm thinking isn't true. Maybe it's just, maybe they're just thoughts. and so at the end of the letter, I said, "Hey, I don't know if anything I'm thinking is true, and I'm willing to fight for this if you are." And thankfully, she said she was. And that ended up being the beginning of our healing. And so we started going to counseling. I started the chains of those addictions dropped right then. So that hasn't been a problem ever since then. Once I told the truth, once I shined a light on those things. But the thing that got me into journaling was what I started thinking was, man, I wrote down my honest thoughts and feelings to her and it healed our marriage. I wonder if I started writing to God every day my honest thoughts and feelings. And so I just started writing every day. At the beginning, it wasn't every day. It was every couple days. But I just tried to be really honest about what I was thinking. I didn't hold back. There was curse words. There's just a whole lot of honesty in there. And so I just kept writing, and I did that for a year, and then 2 years, then 3 years, then 4 years, then 5 years. And about 5 years in, I look at my life, and our marriage was the best it's been. I was a leader there at Ramsey then. I kept getting promotions. We paid off all our consumer debt by that point. And so people would come to me with problems, and I'd be like, hey, you got to try this thing. Like, just get up early tomorrow, start writing your honest thoughts to God, and then just kind of let it go. And they'd come back the next day and they'd be like, hey, I did that thing you said. And I feel amazing. And I feel such a release. And I'm like, I know. and so I just started kind of become known as the journaling guy at Ramsey and the feelings guy sort of there. And so I did that. I mean, I was at Ramsey then till 2022. So another 7 years, I ended up being the chief creative officer there and got on the board, but kept my favorite part was coaching people through this kind of thing. And over time, I just felt like God was like, hey, I want you to just tell more people about this and try to build a business ministry out of it. And so that's the story, the short story of a long story. But that's how it got started.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's super cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
I think one of like how long the journey is. I think sometimes we really are like, why aren't things happening? And it's only been like 6 months or something, it's just like, it really is, I guess, a marathon, not a sprint is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But another thing is that it kind of all started and kept almost like going with discontentment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people stay in discontentment and don't necessarily, I don't know, maybe they think things can't change, or maybe they don't even know how, but a lot of people are discontent.
Yeah. For sure.
Which that's for a lot of reasons. Obviously, we can only find contentment in the Lord, but I think it's probably because there are so many things that are unsaid or that we're trying to hide from or whatnot.
Yeah,
like you were saying.
I don't know if you know John Deloney. He has a show. You should look him up, Dr. John Deloney. He has this phrase that he's like, depression is often because we are depressing our feelings, and that, I know depression is a whole thing, but I think the discontentment comes, one, because it's, what did somebody say the other day? Happiness is just your current circumstances minus expectations. So that's one way to look at it, but also, especially for Christians are afraid to say what they want. They're afraid to say the truth of what they're thinking and feeling because, I don't know if God will like it, or I don't know if it's appropriate, or any of these things. And I think people, once they say out loud, hey, I would like to be a writer, or I would like to do this thing in my life, or I would like our marriage to be different. I am discontent here. That's what unlocks forward movement. That's what unlocks motion, and then you can work with that. And I didn't know that at the time when I wrote Mandy that letter. I was just like, out of desperation, like, if I'm willing to get a divorce, I might as well be willing to tell her the truth, if I'm going to go through all that. And most of it, like most of the problems were right here. Like, once I said the truth, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the one with the distorted thoughts. I'm the one who's got to reset this thing. And it really did become from discontentment. And I think discontentment gets a little bit of a bad idea because, we're not supposed to be discontent, but also it's because you feel there's more, but you don't know what to do to get it. And you feel a little bit like in a straitjacket, and God wants more for us, and we want more for our lives, but we feel like, oh, I can't say that. And then once you do, you're like, oh, well, one, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And two, what do we got to do to get there?
Right.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh no, you go ahead, Jen.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's funny that all of us have sort of had a pull, right, from God. I sort of had a little bit of the same situation. Luke, Kari did as well. Doing our former quote unquote careers and being pulled to something else, through God. And I think, for me, it was that quiet prayer time. I didn't do journaling. And by the way, and maybe we're jumping too early, but I really want to get to those specific parts of, the holy work, because I love it. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I want to break it down for our listeners. But Kari, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you mentioned like us as Christians not wanting to tell God what we want, but he actually tells us that he wants to know what we want. Like even I was just sitting in John, and in John 4, he asked the man at the pool of Bethesda, like, do you want to be healed? And I was listening to a podcast, and the guy was, walking through it, and he said the want to has to come before the how to.
Yes.
And I was like, yes. Yes. That's why people don't take action on things.
In that story, the guy doesn't even answer with, yes, I want to be healed. He answers with all the reasons that people get in his way.
Why he can't get to the pool.
And I can't get there. And it's like, oh man, it's just like us.
Yeah.
It's just like us. And once we say, yes, that's what I want. And maybe it's embarrassing what you want. And maybe it's I mean, we're not talking about immoral things. We're talking about God-given desires when we're talking about this type of want,
Right.
So anyway, yeah.
I love it. I just wonder though, like, what are some things that you've seen that holds us back from really being able to voice or say what we want? Because that really is part of the problem, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's shame. It's fear and shame. So fear and rejection. If I say what I'm actually thinking and you see who I really am, you might reject me.
Yeah.
And that might be true. My wife, thankfully, did not reject me. She was like, okay, that sucks to hear, but okay, what do we got to do? And so that's what I really think it is. And people are afraid of feeling shame, but really, I think it's Chip Dodd. Well, I know it's Chip Dodd. In his book, The Voice of the Heart, he talks about the 8 core feelings, and he lists shame. He lists these 8 core feelings as gifts, and the gift of shame is actually knowing that we're limited and that we need help. And no one wants to admit that they have limits and that they've reached their limit and that they're like, this is all I've got. But once you admit that, it's liberating. Now there's toxic shame, which is, I am a horrible person and I'm just never going to come back from anything. That's the toxic side. But actually, when you admit shame, you're like, man, I'm limited. I messed up here and I've got some work to do and I need some help. That's really a liberating thing. So that's why I think it is fear and shame.
Yeah. But do you think pride stands in the way of a lot of that?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. I've got it all together and I don't want people to know. And so, pride would probably be right in front of shame. But if you go deeper under the pride, it's the shame of having those limits, I think.
Yeah.
The social worker, Brene Brown, always talked about shame. And she said perfectionism, which I feel like is part of pride, is always riding shotgun when shame's driving.
Yes. I have a friend, or it's my wife's cousin. So he's a friend and sort of not blood related, but his name's Michael. And we had this family group that was meeting for a while, like during 2020. We'd get together once a week and we'd go through these sessions, and I was kind of hosting it. And he just stopped me one time. He goes, man, do you just feel like you have to be perfect all the time? And I was like, and he was asking me specifically, not like rhetorically. And I was like, ugh, yes. And I didn't want to answer. I'm like, wait, I'm hosting this thing. I'm sort of leading. Don't ask me hard questions.
Right.
But yeah, it was that perfectionism thing for sure.
Sure. And I think God, he's waiting for us to drop that, to I'll never forget sitting in church this one day, and it was during COVID, so we had masks on. Yeah. And I wasn't feeling good. And I in my head, I was thinking like, God, you're lucky I'm here. Like, I was like, oh my, and then it like stopped. And immediately I felt him be like, oh, it's about like, I was waiting for you to say something, and I immediately felt better.
Yes. And you told him like the truth.
Right.
And he wasn't like, man, who do you think you are? He's like,
no, it was the opposite.
Yeah. Let's talk,
Right.
There's this is reminding me of, I think it's Dallas Willard, who said, God created this, our backyard. So imagine we all live at a house and God creates this backyard. and he fenced in this giant backyard. And there's a merry-go-round, and there's a swing set, and there's a teeter-totter, and there's all these things to play with. But then we're just up next to him going, hey, which one do you want me to play on? Is it okay? Is it okay if I go to the swing set? And he's like, I don't care. I made the whole go play. Like, let's go. Well, but I want to make sure it's the thing. Do you want me to swing on the swing set? Because I don't know. I don't know if I should. He's like, I made the whole backyard for you. I fenced the whole thing in. Go play. And we're all just like worried about it. Like, I made the whole thing. Just go play. So that's
So
another
true.
duty.
I feel seen. Yes. Oh my gosh.
So Luke, do you, and if this is not a good time, let me know, but do you want to jump into a little bit about the parts of the holy work and how it works?
Yeah, sure. Well, it started with like, I pulled out an old one for another project or something. I didn't really have a method at the beginning. I just was writing and trying to be honest. And so it's very messy. The handwriting is just messy. It's just, sometimes you can't even understand what you're writing. But over time, I did start to see patterns that worked. And so the Holy Work method is really, we get together like in the group we have going now. If you joined the community we have going right now, every morning from 7 to 7:30 a.m. Central, there's a group that's gathering, and basically it's a half hour, and we just get on there and we start with 1 minute of silence. And I kind of lead through a little meditation. So just to get yourself, give your mind permission to know that it doesn't have to keep taking in information or performing. So just 1 minute of silence to notice your feet on the ground, to notice the room. And then we sit there for a minute together. Then we move into secondarily 4 moments you're grateful for over the last 24 hours. So often people are like, oh, okay, yeah, 4 things I'm grateful for. Yeah, the car, the house, I'm alive. But if you start to think of moments and you're just like, all right, what are the 4 moments? Oh, it was just me and my daughter. We made these silly videos on my phone last night. That was really great. And you just write a sentence or like that. And we just spend 1 minute of silence, 2 minutes of 4 things you're grateful for. That's to kind of get our minds in the right space. But then we move into what I call the epidermis layer journaling. And this is the key to the Holy Work method, where you write nonstop, don't lift your pen, don't worry about spelling or grammar, ignore your inner critic, write it down if it comes up for 10 minutes. That's where these epidermis level thoughts spill out. And it could be about the laundry, and it could be about the bills, and it could be about whatever. But over the course of the 10 minutes there, especially if you do it every day for a couple of months, what happens is about 4 or 5 minutes in, you start to just write about deeper things, and it's like, man, I guess I haven't spent as much time with my son as I really want to. And so that 10 minutes is key. A lot of times with journaling, it's like, well, let me give you a journaling prompt. And you sit down, you spend 10 seconds reading the prompt, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to write about this deep question. And it's like your brain's not even in a space to do that. So when you do the silence, the 4 things you're grateful for, then 10 minutes of nonstop journaling, you're getting through that epidermis layer stuff, that whiny, petty stuff that stands between you, your deeper self, and God. So then after writing for the 10 minutes, you acknowledge your feelings. So this is where I put a chart up, and you look at these 8 core feelings, and you're like, hey, what feelings came up as I was writing? And who or what are those feelings about? And so you just write for a couple minutes on the feelings you're feeling. Is it fear? Is it guilt? Is it shame? Is it glad? And then after that 2 minutes of the feelings, then we just spend a couple minutes, and you just say, in light of everything I wrote today, God, what do you want to say to me? And then you just be quiet. And you spend a couple minutes just listening. And as I've added that in over the years, I've had people who have said they're Christians, and one guy in particular, he goes, man, I've been a Christian for my whole life. He's probably 40 something. I've never asked God what he wants to say to me.
Wow.
We're always just talking or performing or reading or taking in information. And if you just slow down and you just say, God, what do you want to say to me? It's incredible.
Profound.
What's happening. So then at the end of all that, so that takes about a half hour. At the very end, we just have a simple, hey, what's an action step that you feel like you need to take based off of today's journaling? And then it could be still in my day, or finish my proposal, or whatever the thing is. Like it doesn't have to be this super profound thing. It's just what's a simple action step. So those are the different parts. It's silence, it's gratefulness, it's the 10 minutes, it's the feelings, it's the listening, and then it's the action. And I just kind of cobbled that together over the 5 to 10 years of doing it on my own, and what was helpful and what I started guiding people through. So that's the basic framework. And if the listeners want it, I have a guide where I put this into a Google Doc where you can follow it through. So the best way is just follow me on Instagram, Luke LeFever. Go up there and just send me a message that says method, and I'll send it to you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
We'll link that in the show notes.
Yep.
I'm wondering, like, if somebody's like, I've tried journaling before and I don't like it, or I'm just not a journaler, or, I don't know. What do you say to that? Or what have you learned about?
What I found is that
and by the way, she's probably asking for me.
No, I'm not. I promise. I'm not.
Yeah, what I've found is that most people sit down and they're like, what the heck am I even supposed to write about? Am I just making a document of yesterday? Is it like that? It's like, what is this, Dear Diary, like an old Lisa Frank like elementary school diary? Especially for a guy. Like, guys are especially like, what? You want me to journal? But what I found is that having this method that you go through, including that 10 minutes, is really profound, where you're not judging anything you're writing. Most people start writing and they're like, this is stupid. Why am I even doing this? Okay. Well, are you writing down those thoughts? If you're starting to write down, this is stupid, why am I even doing this? I think this is dumb. Luke told me to journal. I think this is a dumb idea. It doesn't work for me. And just keep going. Just keep going. God, why did I even start to do this? I don't know. I don't want to do this, but I do feel a little overwhelmed. I guess I am overwhelmed more than I think I am. It's like, if you just don't stop and you just keep writing, then afterwards you have a framework to follow where you're like, okay, what am I feeling? Then you write that down, because most people never slow down enough to actually acknowledge what they're feeling. So they're just sleepwalking and letting all of these unconscious thoughts control their behaviors. And it's if you get right down to it, it's simple cognitive behavioral therapy. Our thoughts create feelings, the feelings create behaviors, those behaviors reinforce the thoughts, and we're just in this circle. Journaling kind of puts a wedge in there and goes, whoa, let's write these down. And even if we don't reframe them every time we journal, what happens over time, if you're following a method or a framework kind of thing, you're like, whoa, that pattern, I see that pattern every day. Like, for me personally, like, when I acknowledge the feelings, it's always fear. It's so annoying.
Yeah. Right.
It's like, dang it, man, I'd like to access my anger a little bit more, but it's always fear. Crap, okay, what do I got to do about that? Mm-hmm. So that's what I would say to somebody who isn't a journaler or doesn't like it, or I'm not a writer. We get that a lot. It's not about that. Like, it's just about getting all of these things out onto a page, because our brains think in pictures and images and colors and feelings. They don't think in like sentences. But when we read a book, we read from left to right. When we watch a movie, we watch from beginning to end. When we drive in our car, we drive on the right side of the road to the place. Like, there's a system to it, but our brains are just like, when you write things down, you are giving your brain a story to start to make. And so it starts to actually connect pathways. It starts to help you make sense of the story of your life.
So that might be, I guess, my next thought was like, how is this different than therapy?
Yeah.
Is writing it down. Yeah. And so I think you probably just described that a little bit. Yeah.
That's where the brain starts to make sense of things. I'm 100% for talk therapy. I'm 100% for going to therapy.
They go well together.
Yes. I always call this kind of therapy adjacent. So a lot of therapists will suggest, hey, you need to start journaling. And then the person leaves and they're like, what? I don't even know where to start. What am I supposed to do? And I've found that people who are in therapy and then they come through my program, I've had therapists say to their clients and go, "What have you been doing differently lately? I've noticed such a change in you." And they're like, "I don't know, I just started this thing and I started writing." And they're like, "Wow, that's incredible." And so I talk to every follower on Instagram. I try to have a conversation with. I'll at least reach out and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And start to conversation. And a lot of them are like, "Well, I'm going to therapy, but then I go once every 2 weeks, or whatever it ends up being." And then there's that 14 days in the middle where they're like, "I kind of feel a little bit lost." This gives you a little anchoring point to keep going on. So,
yeah.
good.
Also, I thought about something a minute ago. So I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how important repentance was.
Okay.
But how how a lot of times we don't even know what to repent from because we don't have time for reflection.
Yes.
And I think that goes right along with what you're saying too.
Exactly. There's a philosopher, John Dewey. I don't know a ton about him, but I started to do a little research because I liked his quote. It said, "We don't learn from experience. We learn from reflecting on experience."
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. And we're so busy, right?
Exactly.
We don't even have 20 minutes to sit down and just be.
Exactly. And then some people do. They sit down and they're like, "Okay, well, I'm bored. I should probably do something." And so we flip out our phone and all of a sudden we're distracted again or something,
Right. Definitely.
That's part of why I started this 30-minute thing in the morning is because I used to just do just the daily prompt and I'd send it in an email through text. And then I'd meet with the group once every 2 weeks. Well, people would be like, "Man, I'm having such a hard time staying consistent and showing up for myself." And I was like, "All right, how can I help with that problem?" Okay, well, I'll show up every day from 7 to 7:30. I'll show up for you. Will you show up for you? And then once people started showing up every day, it's really been fascinating to go through this with other people. Like, we're on a Zoom call just like this, and there's 20 little screens, and nobody has to even say anything. It's like having a workout. If you go to the gym and you have your workout at 9 a.m., yeah, I don't feel like going, but I go and I feel great afterwards, and I'm glad I went. This is what I'm trying to create for people to be able to set aside that time and tell their kids or tell their husband or their wife, "Hey, I've got that thing at 7. I'm going to set aside the time." So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I would just want to say, I just feel like that's so important because I think that's where most of where God is working is in, I think, 90% of it is sitting our butt in the chair and literally just showing up.
Yes.
But also that's in that time is, one of the things that you talk about was like practices and the pull. Like we don't recognize the pull because we're so distracted.
That's exactly right. And I didn't cover that in the method, but really in the Holy Work journey, there's 4 things we talk about. It's the practices, which is what we just kind of went through, and there's some more to it than that. Then there's the pull, which is essentially the vision. What vision do you have for your life? Where's God pulling you? And then there's the war. So once you actually do sit down, take the time, you start to do the practices, you start to see, oh, I do want my marriage to be better, or I do want to go after this new goal I have. Well, the resistance is not happy with that. And that's the war that happens. The enemy is not happy with you starting to wake up. And so
there will be a war.
Yeah, there will be a war every time.
Well, there already is one.
Yeah,
yeah, that's true.
Just you're waking up to it.
It.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
So then you get the war, then you get what I call the pull, the war, then the wilderness, which another word for wilderness is just the work. So if you want to make your marriage better, if you want to make your career better or whatever relationship with God better, you got to show up and do the work, which means you got to clean up some old messes. You got to learn new things. You have to take action. You have to be patient. So those are the things we're always talking about in the prompt. So I didn't mention the prompt in the method there. After the feelings, I do have a different prompt every day based off of a theme, and it's always working those four subjects: the practices, the pull, the war, the wilderness, so that people are actively learning or exploring different things in their brains and in their souls.
Yeah.
I love it.
I was just thinking about how there's so many, we hear about journaling a lot. There's a lot of science behind it and all that, but just how important it is to bring God, like to have him in the process. I mean, he's with us in the work, and that's what can feel, I think, so overwhelming if, for maybe a non-believer or somebody that is not necessarily allowing God in.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that you talk about that a lot, I'm sure.
I do talk about it, and I try my best to make this work for anybody, even if you're not a believer.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always talking about the science and the spirituality of it. I want to talk about both, because whether you believe this or not, here's what the research says. And then at the end, when you start to, if I have that listening section and somebody's not a believer, I'm like, okay, well, have you ever slowed down just to, ask yourself what you're thinking about all this, that kind of stuff. What I found incredibly profound is that God's there whether you believe in him or not. And so when you slow down and just have that question, God, what do you want to say to me? I'm sure this will change over time, but I have yet to have anybody say something super negative during that period. And I don't always ask. I don't ask every day what someone thought they heard or what God's saying to them. But inevitably, it's something encouraging. It's something that is what they need to hear. And I just kind of let that be what it is. I say, don't judge it. You can trust the stuff you hear. And it's really over time that you start to recognize, oh, whoa, there's a humble and gentle voice that is not angry at me and loves me. And that's a profound thing. I try to mix the neuroscience and the faith.
I like that.
I don't think they're in opposition. I think science is just proving what philosophers and scriptures have said for thousands of years. So it's awesome.
Exactly.
Yeah, good question.
So as we kind of wind up, I know that I think it was like a reel you did or something that was talking about how when you journal about a traumatic experience 4 times, like what happens? Yeah. And I know there's probably some listeners that just have had a lot of things happen in their past, trauma, whatever. I think sometimes we don't start the process, or somebody like that they're scared because there's just so much.
Yeah.
Like I don't know, I guess.
Yeah. A lot of people are afraid to open up the
can of worms, I guess.
Yeah, the Pandora's box or whatever.
Yeah.
What I'll say about the trauma, if you're in active trauma situation right now, so if you're, a child passed away 2 weeks ago, that is not the time to be rehashing it in your journal over and over again. That's the time to go meet with a group, get into a grief share. Yeah. But what happens is people don't really work through that stuff. And so a year later, they've got all these things that they've never actually worked through. And the like king of therapeutic writing, his name is Dr. James Pennebaker. And he wrote a book called Opening Up by Writing It Down. And this is where he put all his research for journaling through traumatic experiences. And what he found was people that journal through traumatic experiences for 15 minutes a day for 4 days straight. In each day, you write about what happened in a little bit of a different way. So I put it in a guide there. Again, if somebody wants that, they just message me on Instagram and I'll send it to them. So the first day, you just write about what happened. The second day, again, 15 to 20 minutes, write about what happened again. Don't stop. Don't lift your pen. Be completely honest there. And write about, okay, what did I learn from that? Why do I think that happened? And be just completely honest. And if you do that for 4 days straight, the research shows that your brain starts to make some sort of sense of that story. Because what we are all meaning-making creatures. We're trying to make meaning out of everything. And when we write that stuff down, something happens in our brains that starts to make meaning out of it. So I would say that that's the healthiest spot. If you find that it's too hard to write about that traumatic experience and it's too triggering, and so then you just stop. Okay, you're not ready to do that, and that's okay too. And if that's the case and you've not gone to therapy and you've not gone to talk to a professional, you got to go do that. And if you find in the research, it shows don't do it for 5, 6, 7, 8 days, because then that's just ruminating. So 4 days,
Gotcha.
be done with it. You can come back to it in a little while. So you don't just want to like sit there and just rewrite the story over and over again. But 4 days, 15 to 20 minutes is really, really beneficial. Lowers your doctor visits, lowers anxiety, lowers depression. It's incredible and that's research based. That's just not me saying that, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just, I know that's something that people are maybe thinking, and I really loved how you put it.
Yeah.
On your social media. So
yeah,
just
I was
wanted you to
just blown
speak
away
to that.
by that study. And a lot of
really
other people
cool.
were too. That almost got 1 million views.
I know. Yeah.
People are really into that. And I was a little nervous about putting that up because I'm not a trauma therapist. I mean, I'm a coach. I help people work through these things. So I was a little nervous about putting that in, but I made sure to put the research in there. Like this is go get that book, Opening Up by Writing It Down. It's not a necessarily easy book to read. It's just got a bunch of research in it, but he does a decent job of telling the stories of these things. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. Awesome. I've loved this conversation.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you so much, Luke.
Yeah, it's so encouraging. I just wondered if there was like one bit of just encouragement you had to leave our listeners with, whether it's just, whatever's on your heart.
Yeah. I think going back to that stuck and restless thing, if you're listening right now, I just want you to know that you are in that feeling as being stuck and restless. You are a divine work of art. And a work of art, when you look at a work of art and it's halfway done, it looks messy. The sculpture looks messy when it's being created. But just know that the things happening to you are actually happening for you, and they're helping shape you into who you are meant to become. God had something in mind for you when he created you in your mother's womb, and he's slowly pulling you towards that. And it's not going to be easy. Like if he's standing on California and you're in New York City and he's slowly pulling you towards California, I'm not saying you should move to California, but it's beautiful over there. If he's pulling you there, you're going to have to get pulled through some mountains and deserts and Nebraska, and you're going to have to get pulled through all these things. But eventually, just know that he's the one pulling, and he has a beautiful thing in mind for you. And I just want you to be patient and let him pull you.
Yeah. Love that. Thank you so much. Yeah. I know a lot of our listeners are probably, they're just frustrated with where they're at, and they're maybe discontent. They're just feeling overwhelmed. That's, and so I think that this is perfect. I hope that they take that first step and just are honest and truthful.
Yes, do that. Just get out a journal. It doesn't matter the journal. It doesn't matter the pen. Don't overthink it. Write honestly. And if you don't like what you write, or you're embarrassed about it and you don't want anyone to find it, rip it up and burn it.
Right.
The key, like it doesn't matter. You don't have to keep it. It's just about getting it out of here onto a page. And scientifically, that helps your brain start to make sense of it. And it lets you let go of it to God.
Right. We need to let go of a lot. I know that much, especially.
We do.
Thank you so much, Luke. We're going to link all the ways that people can get in touch with you and follow along with you in the show notes. So we really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It's an honor to be here. So good to talk to you. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. See you later.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Appreciate it.
Thanks again, Luke.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.
If this episode has served you in any way, drop a review wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd love it if you'd share any aha moments or takeaways on Instagram and tag us at Cornerstone Integrative Healing.
And if you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do so. We want to continue to walk this journey with you. Until next time, friends, know that we're praying for you.